Good afternoon, ladies. My daughter told me not to say that, but I did it anyway. Young ladies. Thank you very much for, first of all, having me here this evening. I'd much rather do this in a forum like this than as opposed to the 133 other times I took somebody to jail, and that's in the last 2 years. Not all of them are DUIs. I say that in this aspect because nobody's here crying. Everybody that I've taken to jail thus far, male or female, and not because anything of my own wrongdoing, ends up crying before they go into jail. So I do not believe there's anybody here wired thinking things to do in life and going to jail is up to them. So let's keep that in mind if you would, please, ladies. In regards to the DUIs, DUI arrests, things of that nature, another reason I enjoy doing this here as opposed to another forum is because on Memorial Day this past year, I didn't work the accident. However, I was present blocking traffic on State Highway 9 when a young lady, older than yourselves, was under the influence of drugs, not alcohol, and it was prescription drugs. So don't be thinking anything illicit but prescription drugs. And there's an 8-year-old child now dead based on that incident. And the young lady that caused the accident was not, she didn't leave the scene. She drove, parked, walked, and stood with the rest of the folks that were looking until, thank God, a witness in there said, "That's the lady that was driving right there." So she wasn't coming forth, and she wasn't trying to say, "I caused this wreck." She caused the wreck, pulled off to the side, got herself cleaned up, and watched, and waited until somebody pointed her out. Now she's facing manslaughter charges again. Things in life that we don't kind of put up there way at the top of what I need to do next. So please keep those things in mind when we're talking about alcohol, the effects of alcohol. Anybody have an idea in regards to alcohol, what it is? And I don't mean the whole technical, what it does to your body. Anything at all?
Thins your blood.
Pardon?
It thins your blood.
Thins your blood, true. Anything else as far as the physiological effects? Depressant, exactly. So when it talks about depressant, it doesn't mean you're getting all sullen and dramatic, melodramatic, and so forth. It actually depresses your ability, your response times, and your reflexes. Things of that nature. Hence, when you're driving a 2,500-pound bullet, a car, down the roadway, you know how difficult it is driving around the campus. You see it every day. People doing odd things in their cars. Now you've got things that are now compounding that, which is the alcohol. It depresses your senses and so forth. Then there are people that don't stop at those stop signs because they can't project that far ahead and go straight through it. So that's where the alcohol becomes a problem as well. Obviously, responsible drinking of alcohol is one thing. Once you get behind the wheel, you start to take that out of the equation. And you start to affect other people's lives. And again, if that's in a list of things you plan on doing with your life, how I could affect somebody else's life, because the vast majority of the accidents I've worked that had alcohol related to it, the folks that cause that wreck are greatly, are considerably much better shape than the folks have now, because they're just, their inhibitions are gone, so they're really relaxed. So once they get in a wreck, the airbag, steering wheel, whatever, they end up walking away. A lot of the other folks don't. They end up going away in an ambulance, or worse. So again, they're not taking that into consideration. I think it's incredibly selfish. A lot of people are selfish in life anyway, because you do things which you like to do. When you start affecting other people's lives like that with the alcohol, it's a lot different as far as, in my opinion. You're starting to affect people's lives personally. So then again, those are some things I'd like to think about as far as that. Paperwork I had here, pulled down from a case I'd just gone to county court with. Andrew is a whopping age of 22. When I pulled him over as his second DUI, he was a .20. Now they have different levels when they talk about breath analysis and so forth. .20, walking and talking like it didn't even affect him. No different than the guy that probably about a month prior was a .28. The point means the breath, how much alcohol is in your breath, in your blood system. That's essentially what that means. The federal government looks at .08 as an acceptable level. That could be a drink or two. Andrew's a .20, walking, talking, calling me man, calling me dude, going right around the corner to his friend's house. He has a felony charge on his record now, his second one. So again, those are things I actually think about when you actually think about engaging in activities that have alcohol involved. You're grown women, you're going to make your own choices as far as that, as long as it doesn't affect somebody else's lives. Take responsibility for your own lives. Don't try to project that on somebody else. But Andrew's got that felony hanging on his head right now. Again, this is the things I got to figure out what I'm going to do in my future. Who's going to hire me with a felony conviction? wrong as it may be for some folks to think that, if you're the person on the other side of that equation doing the hiring, and we are equally competitive as far as myself and another prospective employee, except I got a felony, are you honestly going to hire me? Are you honestly going to sit there and say, I will pay you $80,000 a year to do this job for my business? No, you're not. So those are things you have to think about. And I get at this young age, it's maybe not something you're thinking about, but Andrew's 22. It's not too far from where you guys are at, or right now. I don't really know what he's going to do with the rest of his life. It's none of my business. I do know he has a daughter, because he told me that as we're going to jail. And then when I saw him in court, I did ask him, how's your daughter? I don't know any ill will towards him. It's a decision he made. You know, no different than the other girl, Elizabeth. First time she drank, that was her statement. The first time. If she hadn't used her turn signal, I never would have known. That was all it took. She blew a .17, which is twice the legal limit, which is a felony. That's how the state writes the laws. But the first time, no, I don't believe it. Not whatsoever. Didn't want to make her cry, she cried on her own. Told me how I ruined her life. How I ruined her life by taking her to jail and taking her off the road at 2 o'clock in the morning. How I was the one that did that. When I sat on Highway 9, oh, I don't know, 6 hours? Long after everybody else was gone. I don't suppose that young lady that cut off that family coming back from the lake, who had the back end of the boat spin around as she cut them off, hit the other oncoming car. I'm sure she was thinking about that too, how we, ruined her life, as she's now waiting on manslaughter charges. So it's the same thing Elizabeth tells me. I've ruined her life. She wants to work for the government, grad student, so forth. I didn't meet her any other time in my life before that. No ill will against her, but again, that's statements that I hear, how I ruined her life. A lot of folks challenge me to different things. I had a young lady challenge me to do burpees. Burpees are the least desirable thing I'd ever want to do. And if you don't know what it is, it's an exercise in pain. Okay? I'll do them because I have to, because it's part of the physical fitness, but essentially what it comes down to is doing a push-up, jumping up in the air, slamming yourself back down and doing a push-up. She challenged me to that at 1:30 in the morning. And I'm glad at least laugh about these things, because she was driving by us with 2 of her tires on her 2012 Mustang blown out. Anybody have any idea where the Sooner Mall is down there in Norman, Manchester? So she's heading down Main Street, 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. Tires are blown out. We wouldn't have known it was her because it was kind of desolate out there, except for the scraping, grinding noise and the sparks flying. She was going west and kept talking about an address on the east side of town. Now again, this is the kind of person who's driving a 2,500-pound bullet down the road, couldn't even fathom. We didn't even know where she blew her tires out. Had no idea. But she wanted to challenge me to burpees and cry because I ruined her life. And if I could just call that person to pick her up, to take her home, I could, but I won't. Because what's she going to do again next time? She's going to pull that trigger again and just say, if I could kind of just, whine about this a little bit, then they'll probably let me go. That's not going to happen. She came with me as far as that, because it's safer. I'd rather be mad at me then and hate me then. It doesn't matter, because I know she won't remember in the morning. I will. I'll get a laugh about it. But there's nobody dead in the equation, So, those are the types of things I'd like the folks, I'd like you ladies to think about as far as that. Yes, I'd much rather meet in this forum, not like Elizabeth or Andrew, or however the math works out, the 131 other folks. Not all of which were DUIs. As far as that, there's about 30 were DUIs. Well, that's in 2 years on the job down in Norman. I did it for 23 years for the Air Force. I had much more than that down in Norman now. Of course, the numbers are greater, and the college is down there, and so forth. But it's no different than here. So if you engage in those type of activities, some things to think about, the cost. If I ask you guys right now for roughly $3,500 cash, who's going to hand that over? Seriously. Maybe donate to your favorite charity. $3,500, one check. Nobody. That's how much it's going to cost you. That's roughly $3,500. It's like $2,400 for the whole booking fee, city fees, well, not attorneys yet. All they charge, all the state kind of wills out to other entities. $2,400. It's about $1,000 just to get out of jail. Now you could bond out, it's pay $100, but you're going to pay $1,000 somewhere to somebody. The extra $1,000 beyond that, I just guesstimated that's what it may cost for an attorney. By all means, look it up for yourself, get educated there, but I'd much rather take those other choices than if I'm going to drink and I'm of age, I'll do it responsibly. I'll have a plan. I'll take $3,500 and put it on the table. Mind you, that's provided you don't get anybody injured in the interim, like the manslaughter charge. Yeah, $3,500 doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot when you go into jail at all. And when I went and sat in court for Andrew, his attorney, while Andrew wasn't there, because he couldn't find the courthouse. It's a big building, it's got a green lid on it. Don't know what the deal was with Andrew. His attorney laughed in their presence. Now I'm just sitting in the back. Attorney, defense attorney, and prosecution there. Just laughed about the fact, well, I don't care if he's late or not. I'm getting paid. Score one for you for taking a guy's money. Now mind you, I don't have no ill will against Andrew. He's basically, that's what it came down to, the dollars and cents. I don't care about him. He's paying me. So again, ladies, if that's something you want to think about doing, drop that cash out there, let somebody take it, they will. But they don't really care. There's some great defense attorneys for that, but how about this? Don't use it. Take that $1,000, let it do something better for yourselves. Whatever it is, you know. But those are things I thought that was very poignant. They just didn't care. I figured as such with him anyway, because he has a history as that type of attorney, arrogant, pompous, and so forth. We got an address downtown off of Colby McGee, so I guess that's fairly pricey. So you're gonna have to pay that rent somehow. He pays it with people who make mistakes. You know, and I'm not judging him. Like I said, it is a mistake. I don't know how you could give somebody else their life back, child's life back, or anything else. You could fix their property, you could pay their damages, you could pay for the Mustang with the 2 blown out tires later on. Like I said, Elizabeth told me that I ruined her life and her federal job and so forth. She's the one with the felony. I never met Elizabeth before. But she's got the felony conviction. Whether the federal government hires her or not is beyond me. Whether she's a grad student or not, that's beyond me. I didn't know her before that, so it didn't really matter. You know, I just know I didn't want her driving, and as she continued to say, right around the corner. And she was, but she missed her turn twice, because she bypassed acres where she said she was going. So I knew that she had no idea where she was headed. Again, that goes to the diminished senses. You know, I'm just going home. Well, until I slam to the side of somebody else. So those are the types of things I look out for as far as that, regarding the DUI driving and so forth. And not just that. Because I work down there by the OU campus, you get to see plenty of the folks twisted up with the alcohol. There's nothing more disturbing as a father of a daughter when you see young ladies tore up from the alcohol. And you see a lot of guys around them. Seen young lady, Danielle, Denise, whatever it was, just a little pip of a thing, laying in a field, passed out. There was probably about 300 other students around because it was their rush, but nobody was there helping her. She was just laid out, kind of like a thing. So I couldn't really fathom that, because they called us because they wanted us to go there and help another human being out who could not help herself. Kept wanting to pull her shirt up. Kept telling her, Denise, I'm sorry. I talked to her mom on the phone in Texas because she was so drunk. She called her mom in Texas. Not sure what that's going to do. And all I kept looking at is all those guys sitting around just wondering, what's your motivation? With this girl who doesn't even know which way is up, laid out here in the grass, trying to get to call her mom and pull her shirt up and everything. Get on the ambulance and get help. I had no desire to sit there and charge her with public intoxication. I could have. Get help first. Because the boy prior to that, Nixon, he was so bad off and so big. And I'm talking to you like I'm, 5'6", 160? He's easily twice my weight. He did not make a sound. He did not move. He was underneath a piece of construction equipment. Again, several people around, just kind of looking like, there's that thing there. Couldn't even move. He didn't make a noise until he got to the hospital. And they rolled him over. I'm thinking to myself, is this exactly what you think about with your life, to get that destroyed on alcohol? You know, I don't think anything would have happened to him. He still had his phone and his wallet. It's just that little girl that was left there. In that same evening, a young lady called from inside a bus because she thought she was locked in the bathroom and she had no idea where she was. On the phone crying, /drunk, /irrational. In a bus, traveling somewhere, drunk, locked in the bathroom. And all she's kind of sort of worried about is because she's underage. You don't even know where you're going. You don't know how to get out of the bathroom. And your concern is, if I'm going to get in trouble. You're buying a lot more than trouble when you have no idea where you're at, how to get out of a bathroom on a bus. Because those are some sort of safe, aren't they? I think it's kind of a latch that says vacant or occupied. I don't know. But she couldn't figure that out. And we had every bit of, I don't know, it seemed like a dozen buses down there. So what do? Start pulling over every bus looking for a girl who made a poor decision. True enough. But in reality, figure out how I could do to save her life from making an even worse mistake. Because I think that's where it's headed. You're calling already crying. You know where you're at. You can't stop every bus. We didn't. Stopped a few. I think they found her. It was parked outside of their sorority building. Not moving, but we were chasing buses, looking. Not moving. And she got out, to an ambulance, on your way. But again, like I said, the reoccurring theme. You're getting so bad off with alcohol. Be concerned about the age. Be concerned about the effects. Be concerned about the motives of those around you feeding this to you. Because, and Denise laying in the field, oh, there was a boy there holding her hand who seemed genuine enough. But I won't lie to you. I asked him straight up, you a doctor? Nope. Get out of here. Because it aggravates me, because I also think about ulterior motives. He very well could have been a good enough guy. But I asked him if he called the cops too, and he said no. So you're going to hold her hand, and I'm going to try to be that guy. I didn't call the cops. How did I even call an ambulance? What are you going to do with this human being? Let her go upstairs and sleep it off? Which is kind of how people die. Because they can't take care of themselves. Nixon couldn't. He couldn't even move on his own weight, his own power. I didn't try to pick him up. That's paramedic fire department job. That's the honest to God's truth. Put a board up underneath that boy. Let's roll him underneath there. But I'm going to try. He's a big man. But he got destroyed. And those are, of course, very loose terms as far as that. He was inebriated. The only noise he made was at the hospital. And it was like grunt, moan, and I was like, I'm leaving. But they asked me if I was going to stick around to take him to jail for public intox. He's got far bigger issues than that. Would it have taught him a lesson? I don't think so. Because if he got that destroyed, that means his friends kept feeding him that alcohol at their own entertainment. Again, it comes back to the ladies. Because I see enough of that downtown as well. Folks with their motives as far as that, how they're going to keep giving people drinks, how they're going to keep giving the ladies the drinks, knowing they shouldn't be drinking to begin with. And again, list of things I want to do in life. Getting arrested, if that's not up there, then work on the crying bit, because that usually will follow it. Do I want to have a felony conviction? Do I want to be competitive with my peers? And if so, getting arrested arrested in a felony conviction, perhaps even a manslaughter, is going to greatly affect that. You can't take back that 8-year-old child's life. So their folks have to kind of go on without that void. You'll have to fix yourself and move on. But it's the alcohol is always the contributing factor. Drugs as well. We talk a little bit about the drugs, driving on under the influence of drugs. Prescription drugs. Very big problems now. Because a lot of folks are just kind of popping, selling them, taking them, everything like that. I will still take you to jail. Because you still need some sort of help, is what all Andrew needed. His lawyer said, I'm getting paid. He pled out with it. I got the case. He pled it out. But he's not going to get any help. He gets an interlock device. Any idea what an interlock device would be? You're correct. A breathalyzer goes in your car. It's attached to your vehicle because you have such a alcohol problem. You must below provide a breath sample for you to pass to drive. Now people talk about I get told when to come and go. I have rules, I have regulations, this and that and the other. I have things I have to follow in society. You can't drive unless you pass a breath test. Think about that. Just another layer of people having control of your life. That's what apparently Andrew's going to do, at least for 6 months. That's his deal. If he doesn't use that, that's his own vehicle. If I stop him in another vehicle without an interlock device, because that does get put on his record, that's violating his probation, which causes another time in jail for him. That's his deal. I'm not going to go looking for Andrew. I mean, he lives in this city. He just happened to get caught down in mine. You know, when we talk about the drug aspect of it, people abusing the drugs, that's another element as well. Different tests we have to look for that. They don't show up in a breath test. That's people just abusing prescription drugs, either prescribed to them or otherwise. Still a felony. There'll still be a felony charge on your record. Or at least that'd be something that the DA would have to worry about charging you with. I know we talked about the effects of the alcohol, some of the lawyers, some of the costs, things of that nature. A couple horror stories here and there as far as that. It does honestly, and truly for me anyway, it does come down to the aspect of the choices you'll make. And you're grown women. You'll make your choices. A lot of people say, oh, well, you know, it's college, I'm supposed to have fun, I'm supposed to have a good time, so forth, so on. You're right. But if you can't remember blocks of time because you got so drunk and you don't think that there's not going to be a consequence associated with that, a public intox, essentially what it comes down to, the city's going to get money from you. City norm is roughly about $500 for a public intox, and you still go to jail for 4 hours. I don't want to be scared straight. You can go to jail on your own if you'd like, just to see what it's like. I go there because I have to go to take people there and listen to people's stories about how they're wrongfully accused and so forth. I wouldn't want to stay there. Not dirty, nasty otherwise, it doesn't matter. There's a lot of folks that go to jail because they have nowhere else to go. Oh, you're going to sit in a cell with that type of person. So you make a mistake, you'll pay your debt to society, and that's understandable. But there's other folks that actually have us arrest them because they have nothing else going on. So that's the kind of person you end up going to jail with. I don't think Andrew or Elizabeth had that in their mind whatsoever. I took them because that's the requirement. I'm not going to let Andrew go. I'm not going to let Elizabeth go. She's twice the legal limit. I didn't make her drink the only time in her life, as she says. I think she's about 23, 24, something like that. So she's of age. But generally, that's another thing I found out. The vast majority of these people that I take to jail, we have to inventory their items, their contents, give it to them, give it to the jail. They're in my custody, and they go to the custody of the jail. I'd be surprised if none of them didn't have at least $50 to $100 in their possession, where they probably could have called. Everybody's got a phone, so they got a way out of that situation. But too much pride. Pride has, in some place from some people, no cost to it, and it's a big thing to try to get around. So I don't want to let my pride get in the way. I'll make that call. I won't let my pride get in the way. I'll pay for that cab. Some people are just too proud. Well, I'm never too proud to take you with me. And it's not a threat. I'm not going to work your wreck for 6 hours. I'm just not going to stand there. I'm not going to stand there in the freezing, cold rain or anything like that. I may get paid for it, and that is a true statement. But I'd much rather you drive on by with a friend, in a taxi cab, something like that. I don't care if you don't wave. I don't care if you say anything derogatory. You're not behind the wheel. You're not injuring anybody else. You're not imposing your will on somebody else. I'll live with that. Because that's a much better decision. Because then you can come back and do it again next week if you're of age and if that's your thing. But see, there's a lot of folks that can't handle it, destroyed in their mind in that, and they just think it's cool and they try it again next week. It's only so long I think you can kind of play those games before you find out you're on the losing end of it. You know, is that something you're going to do with your lives? Just think about it. Am I marketable with a felony conviction? Do I have at least $3,500 to drop for this case? Even if I do get a bail bondsman, I don't know what their rates are. I really don't. But people ask me all the time, what would I do? I'm fairly, at times, a smart aleck. So sometimes I'll just tell them, don't get arrested? That's a thought. You know, what would you do? I don't know. I wouldn't get arrested where I have to go out there and ask somebody to bail me out at $25,000. Which is like, I don't know, sometimes it's like $2,500 up front just so they can get released. That's a thought. You know, I just wouldn't go and do that. But that's going to be a cost shared by you guys. And then again, being competitive. At this young age, the whole life ahead of you, and if you can't honestly ask yourself, would I hire me? Equal qualifications, 2 personnel, right down the line, felony conviction. That was just a one-time deal. Do you honestly think that the person that I stopped, it's their very first time drinking and driving? Exactly. You're absolutely right, young lady. No, it's not. It's not. If that's the case, they need to go start betting on horses. You know, or I should be doing that. There's no way that somebody gets stopped their very first time. They get up enough gusto to try it again and again, and now they're going to start colliding with your lives, or your loved ones' lives, or your family's lives, or your neighbors' lives. And they're not going to tell, oh, they'll tell you they're sorry afterwards. It doesn't mean anything to that family missing that 8-year-old. Sorry is a statement that's kind of filling in a void in their own lives, but never in that family's. Because I'm sure it's the very first time they gave that a go. I'm going to try drinking tonight, and I'm going to drive, and I'll be okay. Because I've never done it before, I didn't have a plan, and I have no idea what I'm going to do. If you're of age to go and consume alcohol, responsibility is yours. Having a plan, like anything else. If you're going to take a trip to Colorado this week, you'll probably have a plan. Where I'm going to go, where I'm going to stay, how much food I'm going to take, how much gas. Do the same thing for anything else in life, especially a big decision like that. Because again, there'll be somebody else out there trying to... It doesn't mean you won't always get stopped by the police. That's not it. It's those decisions you have to live with afterwards when you don't get stopped. Will I do it again? If I don't get stopped, what's going to happen next time? Like I said, you're driving a 2,500-pound bullet out there. It doesn't mean you have to kill somebody with it, to include yourselves. Because there's always somebody out there on those intersections doing the same thing. Forget about what the statistics say, 4 people at 2 o'clock in the morning at the 4-way stop, and 2 of which are drunk. It could be 4. All 4 people are drunk. Could be 1, could be none. Is that I just keep it down at least for the cost, and then your responsibilities as far as your decisions that you make. It's quite a bit of information, I understand that. At the very least, have a plan. You're responsible young ladies, and just decide what you want to do with the rest of your life. If you don't want to take a ride to jail and cry over it and think somebody actually cares about your crime, you understand at the end of the day that's a foregone conclusion. I think the real pain comes afterwards once you sober up. You start facing charges and figuring out how much things cost in this world as far as beyond books, clothes, and vehicles. So, any questions at all, ladies? Yes, what you got?
Okay, so what if, like, I'm underage, but what if I was driving a friend, like DDing for friends that were of age to drink, and
Yep.
they had like an open container that I I'm the one driving.
Yep.
Is that
No,
come back on me, or?
No, you still give the person a transporting open container. It happened not too long ago to me on Aspen Boyd, right down there. All I did is spill it out and I told them, here's your ticket, docket. Because honestly, God, it's about money. Lives, money, but when you start talking about the people that aren't injured in that, it's money. The city wants money. You know, so they give you a docket for transporting an open container. Not you, the person who had it. I'm driving. I can't be paying attention to everything. Let's be realistic. One guy's car was his vehicle. Nice Toyota. All that alcohol spilled in the back there. I said, you'll have bigger issues later on. Cleaning up your own car. Here's your buddy's ticket. It was like $249. Transporting an open container. You know? So, yeah, that's essentially what it comes down to. The driver, admin law could be different. Oklahoma City law could be different. Norman law, you give it to the person that. Which a couple guys did that, shooting bottle rockets out of their car. They didn't want to get any attention by any means. Cutting people off and shooting bottle rockets. I'll go to court for him probably in the next month or so. There's a congressman that caught him. So it's not the congressman label, but I was like, you think he's got integrity issues? I don't think so. I'm pretty sure he saw him shooting bottle rockets out of his car. Matter of fact, when I asked the guy, he's like, no, I don't think we do. That's a lie. You know, and there's a bottle of Jim Beam in the back. As far as he could tell, it's been there forever. But everybody smelled like they've been drinking Jim Beam recently. But not from that bottle. You know, I get lied to a lot, and that's fine. I don't mind it. That's their issue in life. That's not mine. I'll just give you the paperwork. As long as you're safe, we'll take you up to jail, do that stuff, and we're done. It's not personal. It's just, it is what it is. You know, he'll explain to his folks as to why. Because, oh, I'm sorry, ladies, I didn't tell you this side of additional cost. Your vehicle will get towed. About $100. It's about $100 in the city of Norman for your vehicle to get towed, and about $100 a day for it to be stored. So $3,500, keep adding in $100 a day, and you get your vehicle back when you get a license, when you get insurance, proof of ownership, so forth. So when you're driving your friends around, the vehicle gets towed, your friends will have to come around to their senses and say, where's my vehicle? The thing about that is, what you got, young lady?
In case anyone's curious about how much it costs to get your license in the city, it's about $350 to get reinstated. Not depending on your insurance premium, that'll be on your fee. And the reason I say this is because they have the newspaper.
There you go. There you go. I mean, that's not an easy thing to do, to start separating with your own cash. Because I guarantee there won't be too many people in here saying, hey, I'll give you $350. No, it's just reality. So everything is about that aspect of getting the money back, getting your driver's license back. I'll give you a temporary license. I'm sorry, the state does give you a temporary license for 30 days. Those are a little awkward when I see those on traffic stops because it's a piece of paper. Right away I know DUI. And I'm going to ask, have you been drinking tonight? You know, they're going to say no. But your body doesn't lie. There's things that you cannot control that I can see. Eyeballs. Your eyeballs twitch. It's an involuntary muscle. Your eyeballs twitch. All I have to do is look and start standing over here, and then your eyes start doing this. Some people have natural nystagmus. Not everybody does. It's not perfect science, but it's a start. So you can lie verbally if you want, but your body's saying other things. Driver's license and insurance. Or a Sears card. That'll work. Okay, whatever. Andrew did that with me. Andrew gave me his insurance. Then he just looked at me. What's up, dude? What's up? You're not going surfing. It's just not like a thing. It's surfer, dude. Driver's license and insurance. Fantastic. And insurance. And he just kept looking at it. It's plain English that I used, but I mean, it was a telltale sign. So we just started rocking and rolling. And before I know it, his breath sample is above twice the legal limit. Almost 3 times the legal limit. You know, driving that little Toyota Corolla, that's what it was. He was driving it to his destiny. You know? Which is almost actually the back of a truck. That's the reason I stopped it. Didn't use a turn signal, I just ran to the back of the truck. Like, that's a clue. 2 o'clock in the morning when there's not that many people out there, there's no reason for you to be driving to the back of a truck. Especially the Toyota Corolla. Very efficient car, but not very efficient on accidents. So, yes, it does cost at the end of the day. The cost of money is one thing that you look at. Also, like I said, think about that young lady in the middle of the field. somebody was giving her drinks, and then somebody just kind of left her. And I think that's the most irresponsible, disgusting thing in the world, that you're just going to kind of leave somebody and just be like, that's not my deal. But I'm guessing, and it literally was hundreds of people getting on these buses, I'm guessing somebody would have taken a chance to maybe try to help that young lady out. And their interpretation of help and mine are two different animals. Because I don't think their motives would have been as genuine or noble. Mine was, get an ambulance now. Get her to the hospital. And I'm sure I got to ask someone along the way, you going to charge her? No. Get her to the hospital. She needs help. She made a mistake, a bad choice, so be it. She's a recurring bad mistake or bad choices, then she can go to jail next time if she chooses to do that. But that day, that's all I kept thinking about. She'd make me talk to her mom. Her mom's in Texas losing her mind because her daughter can't really speak. But she was adamant I had to talk to her. And I didn't mind it. You didn't mind telling her mom she'll be fine, she'll go to the hospital, and get her taken care of. Not really what I thought I'd be doing that evening, but whatever. Because I don't think that guy was holding her hand was thinking about talking to mom. Sure as heck didn't call an ambulance. Because I did that, so I don't know. I just kind of think some folks just don't really get it, when you're that bad off. Where you can't say no, stop, I need a friend. So, any other questions, ladies? At all? All right. Well, thank you very much for giving the time for this. Again, I'd much rather meet in this forum than an opposite forum. But if it happens, it happens. It's not personal. At the end of the day, like I said, with lawyers, it's personal. They just really want your money. I won't get any of it. Thank you again, ladies. I appreciate it.
This is Colby McGee. He is from Mothers Against Drunk Driving. And he's going to talk to us a little bit and tell us his story.
What are we doing this evening? Okay. Good deal. I've had the opportunity to speak at several different schools, different organizations, even victims impact panels where basically what that means, if you've been convicted of a DUI or something, you're required to go to a class or so forth. So I talk to, it's not really funny, but I joke about it and say I'm going to talk to drunk people. So now it's a different situation for me because I've never talked to a sorority. So I've never talked to this many girls at one time in a room. And you're all sober, so that's a bonus. Before I get started, I'll introduce, first my wife come with me. She don't like me to introduce her, but I always do. So my wife's in the back there, Cheyenne. Then sitting next to her is Miss Loretta. She is the MAD, I call her basically the director of MAD for Oklahoma. So she's the one that kind of gets people like me in the direction to go. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself before I get going. I think it's important in public speaking to kind of maybe, if I tell you something about myself, you may can relate to me just a little bit. So we may not have nothing in common because I didn't see any ostrich boots in here. I had the only pair on, so nobody else had those on, so I think we're a little bit different. Like she said, my name's Colby McGee, and I'm from Valiant, Oklahoma. Does anybody know where that's at? Okay, where's it at? Doesn't matter, either one of you. Take it off. Okay, all right. Play some football, but we don't know where that's at. That's great. Okay. Valiant is in the far southeast corner of the state, population of about 700 people. So I come from a very small town. Most people say small towns, I come from a town small. It's got 5,000 people. No, you've not been to a small town. That's right. That's right. I come here and there's like stoplights and stuff like that. I don't see that. So, anyways, I'm currently going to OSU right now. I'm a junior majoring in agricultural education. My wife's an elementary teacher, so we're living in Stillwater right now. I went to a junior college at Eastern Oklahoma State College in Wilburton, Oklahoma. Of course, I graduated from Valiant High School, large class of 86 students. Anyways, I'll get to the chase here and talk to you guys while I'm here. I want to take you guys to a particular date. I want to be really specific. I want to take you to May the 20th of 2009. I'm a sophomore in high school. I'm playing baseball. Got hopes and dreams of playing college ball. It's the only thing I had on my mind at the time. Girls was like second to my mind because baseball was number one. That's what I wanted to do. I'm 16 years old. This is May the 20th. It's the second to last day of school. I went to school like any other day. I drive my little 1988 Chevrolet S10 Mom and Dad gave to me when I turned 16 and drive it to school. I stopped by the local convenience store and get my usual, little lady calls me my first name, of course, and she gets my sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit, gets me my little glass, like little 12-ounce Dr. Pepper, and go to school that day. I go to my first hour, second hour, third hour, get to my fourth hour class. I walk into the agricultural education building, and I walk into an individual's classroom, and over the top, when I walk in, it said Mr. McGee. So it maybe gives you a clue. That guy was my dad. My dad was my ag teacher. Are you guys, any of you ladies, familiar with the FFA?
Yep.
Okay, good. That's kind of what I'm about, basically. So I go in the fourth hour class, that is animal science class. It was kind of great being a teacher's kid, then again it wasn't, because you couldn't get away with anything at all. So my dad's class, he's teaching us, reviewing for our test we had the next day for our semester test. Any other day, I'm sitting on the back row, throwing stuff at him, giving him a hard time, on to me. Just a normal day. Well, I go to a few more classes after that class, and I go to my 6th hour class. It's an Ag 2 class, same teacher. That's twice I've had the experience to have this teacher that day. I go to baseball practice for 7th hour, stay a little bit later, take a few extra cuts, throw a little bit, play some long toss, because I'm getting ready to go visit some colleges. I'm a sophomore in high school, I'm a little young, but I'm already looking. So I go take care of that stuff. Get home about 4:30. Once I get home, I take care of chores. We have some show livestock, some goats, some pigs, some sheep, so I feed those livestock. I take care of a little small garden that my dad and I had going. Do a few things, because it was always my duty every day. My dad made sure that I knew that when I left his class, he reminded me that once you get home, take care of the stuff we do every day. I can do that. Well, it's May. It's kind of warm weather. It's nice. And let me tell you what, this little country boy right here loves to be on the lake on a summer day. So, of course, pulled over to the side by the shop is going to be a bass boat hooked up to a truck. So they hooked up all the time, ready to go in the springtime. My dad told me that day when I left class, he said, hey, take care of everything. We're going to go fishing as soon as we get everything taken care of. I said, sounds good. So, my dad at the time had taken a new job at the school as a transportation director. So he stayed a little bit later than he normally would. So he wouldn't get home normally until about 5:30 or so. Well, this day he got home about 5. And when he got home that day, I had everything taken care of, and I'm just kind of sitting there waiting on him, and he said, I forgot to tell you, we started mowing the yard a couple days ago. We need to finish that up today. Really, it won't take us probably 20 minutes, and then we're going to go fishing. I said, okay, sounds good. He's like, so jump on a lawnmower, go down there by the road. Well, we're on a 2-lane road, speed limit is 55 miles an hour. It's a country road, very few neighbors, so it's not very busy. And we mow about probably 50 feet up to the road, so forth in that area. So that was my job to go mow that. That area was to be mowed wasn't as big as this room probably. So I get on the riding lawnmower, and right before I started, my dad says, hey, now this is one of those negatives about being a teacher's kid. Got any homework? Well, in my case, homework is not homework unless you have to write it down. So if it was a test, that was never homework to me because I didn't think about studying. Who cares about that? But he's like, I know you got a test in my class. Do you have any other tests you guys? Well, I got an essay I need to write actually. He said, well, go inside and write your essay. I'll go mow the yard, and then we'll go. Another bonus to this day was my dad and I fought a whole lot about who had to do the weed eating because weed eating is no fun. I hate it. He hated it. So he said, I'll do the weed eating even. That'll make it better. I said, that's perfect. So I go upstairs in my house, and my house looks to the north where my room is. On the end, there's a window. My dad gets on the riding lawnmower and starts it up and makes it about from here to the back of the room, and it dies. And I just thought, you know, day before yesterday when I got through mowing, I didn't fill it back up with gas. So I raised the window up real fast. I was like, "Run out of gas, did you?" He said, "Yeah, I did." Kind of laughed at me, waved at me, and he rode off towards the end of the road, and I continued my homework. So, let's say about probably 5:59 p.m., almost 6 o'clock. I'm sitting there listening to, I can tell you the exact song, I can't tell you who sings it anymore, it's just been a few days, but it was a new song that came out called Getting You Home. It was Getting You Home, I think it's the way you pronounced it actually, the hick way I guess. It was a country song. I had that song turned on my laptop, typing away, just all day. I have a small dog. Like I told you, we live in the country, small little 2-lane highway, very few people travel that road. My mom is getting home about that time. Well, my mom thinks it's appropriate to scream her lungs out at this dog because it's going towards the highway. So she's screaming her lungs out. I'm like, man, this is ridiculous. That little dog's not worth it. It was a free dog. A free dog from my neighbor that was like 85 years old and she couldn't get around and couldn't see it to feed it, so she kept screaming, just kept screaming, kept screaming. And I was like, man, that dog, you gotta be kidding me. So I get up from my desk and I go to the stairs and I go downstairs. Like in my house, we're going to say these right here at the end of the stairs. The doorway is like over here. So I have to like kind of make a little turn to go to the door. As I go to make that little step, my mom is facing me with the blank look on her face. And she's bawling her eyes out and she's still screaming. I'm going to stop you right there. I'm going to take you to spring, right before spring break, my senior year. My baseball team was going to Stillwater, Oklahoma to play in a tournament at LAP Reynolds Stadium. But I was the first baseman that year, pitched a little bit, played catcher. So my favorite catcher, my best friend from we were knee-high to grasshoppers, I like to say, are sitting on the second row of the courthouse in McCurtain County. We were watching the gavel drop on a guy. And all I remember that day is I'm sitting there and I remember 24 years in Oklahoma Department of Corrections. So that day, my dad was out riding lawnmower. A gentleman by the name of Stacy Sloan Whiteley was driving 71 miles an hour in a Dodge Dually. Curves down the turn, hits my dad on a riding lawnmower, throws him 98 feet, dead on impact. So that's what happened that beautiful May day. It's not where I wanted to be that day. I didn't want to be in the courtroom in March. I wanted to be with my baseball team. They were already almost to Stillwater. So here's me and my catcher. We're sitting there. You know, you got two big, grizzly-looking high school boys bawling their eyes out. Stacy Sloan Whiteley had 3 DUIs prior to that. They were all deferred sentences. So, in the state of Oklahoma, as of now, those sentences that are on your prior record, deferred or not, they can be mentioned to your jury because of the Martin McGee Act. So, he received 24 years. It just so happens that about probably 8 months or so after the trial and everything was over, I was in Walmart, which is where I live. Going to Walmart's a big thing because it's 30 miles away. I'm in Walmart with my mom and just going down, just through the grocery area, and the gentleman stops me. I remember seeing him one time in my life, but couldn't put a finger on it. He says, "Colby," and he introduced himself to me. I said, "Oh, I remember you. You were on the jury that was on my dad's case." He said, "Yes, sir, I was." He said, "I want you to know how we came up with 24 years. I said, "Okay, tell me." He said, "Your dad was 47 years old when he got killed, and Sloan Whiteley was 27. It's a 20 years difference." And manslaughter, you're required to serve 85% of your crime. So we want him to serve at least 20 years because 20 years age difference. So I said, okay. So that's how they came up with 24 years. I want to tell you something. That small town of Van, Oklahoma truly missed a man that day. The last day of school was canceled. My dad's funeral, which it was in our school auditorium, which holds about 1,500 people. And it was completely full. And our gym is right next to it. And they had a TV screen to show the other about probably 500 or 600 people. So we had more than our town's population. There were about 10 states represented from that funeral. I'll tell you why. There's another kind of little catch to it. My dad was a professional rodeo announcer. He announced rodeos for the International Pro Rodeo Association. You guys ever heard of the IFR in Oklahoma City? Okay. My dad announced that rodeo. So here's a man that was taken away because of someone's bad decision. And when I say a bad decision, Sloan Whiteley made a terrible decision that day. He left work early, went to 2 bars, met an ex-girlfriend, while his wife is sitting at home 8 months pregnant. So here's a young lady that's not even born yet that basically is gone from having the opportunity of having a father throughout her life, basically. He's going to be in there 20 years, and she was born about 3 weeks after the wreck. And so I'm kind of one of those people that I don't want to sit around and say, hey, feel sorry for me, but I'll tell you something. There's one person in the entire situation I feel sorry for. It's that little girl. I'm telling you. It tears me up thinking about it. She had no decision whatsoever why her dad got behind the wheel that day and blew a .22. This guy weighed about 360 pounds probably, so that's a lot of alcohol. So I challenge you to make smart decisions, because you never know who it's going to affect. I would have never thought that day that my dad would have got killed by a drunk driver. Never. I didn't even know my dad was killed by a drunk driver until 2 days later. I was just told by one of the highway patrolmen that there was something fishy. He said, I'll let you know as soon as I can. And I'll tell you something also. That's a great feeling to have those guys in that police uniform standing next to you and your family in the courtroom. It's an amazing feeling, I'm telling you. Because they were right there the whole time. So, I hear you guys are having a formal coming up pretty soon. And just like you mentioned earlier, yeah, you're in college. Yeah, I'm in college, but I'm married and I'm 21 years old. My situation's a little bit different than everybody else's. Yeah, you can go out and have a good time. You bet. Jump right on it. But you better make some plans when you're sober. So you better figure it out. It's one of the smartest things you can ever do in your life. I tell anybody never around, anybody I went to junior college with, or anybody I'm currently going to university with, you know, if you drink, hey, if you drink 1 beer, you're like, oh, I'm fine. You know, that could be enough just to make the difference. I mean, that could do it. So that's when you call somebody that you know. I mean, if you come from a small town like I did, it could be your high school principal. You never knew. Just call them up. Hey, I'm in a bind. I drink 3 beers. I need to get home so my parents don't kill me. Hey, I'll take up for your parents. You know, I mean, I'll take care of that. We're going to get you home. It's a lot better than having a police officer go to your parents' house and say, hey, you're dead. So like I said, I'd like to challenge you. Personal challenge from me to you. That if you have 1, 2 drinks, 3 drinks, or close the bar down, think somebody get you home, because it's important. Because Stacey Sloan Whiteley made a terrible decision that day. Terrible. Because it's not just him having to pay the price. He's not just sitting in prison having to sit there and think about it every day on a concrete bed. It's the little girl that's, you know, now walking, because the wreck was going on 5 years now. You know, she's just, she doesn't know to be honest with you, why her dad's not ever around with her. She just knows she has to go visit him on Sundays. To make the situation worse, say she's on Watley's family and my family were very close. Very close. They owned a tax business, and my parents always went to them, for CPA services. So they were very close to us. Now, situation, we don't talk to them. But I'll tell you something. Just think of somebody else. Think of an unborn child. Think of, the person sitting next to you in here. Think of me. I'm standing up here. You never met me till tonight. Think of anybody in here. And always understand that the one time you get behind the wheel while, you taking prescription drugs, anything, just think you could affect somebody. So, I've had the opportunity after I've had to go to Oklahoma State to listen to a lot of motivational speakers, a lot of public speaking. And I've learned one thing from my experience at OSU so far. And that's kind of sad to say that, but it's a great university. But I've learned one thing, that in public speaking, there's like 3 parts. So the first part was when I walked up here and told you my name. Actually, she introduced me, but I told you my name, told you where I was from, told you my story. So my story kind of be like the middle part. And then me challenging you to make a smart decision. And research has proved that you will never remember all 3 of those. I promise you there's about maybe half of you can tell me my name right now. And you could maybe tell me where I was from. You just know that I'm from a small town. And I promise you, I've said his name probably 10 times. You couldn't tell me the guy's name who killed my dad. But I guarantee you one thing, you're going to remember one thing that I've told you tonight. And that's make a smart decision when you decide to drink. Most importantly, have somebody come pick you up or make plans before you go out. Thank you very much.
Okay, so now that we've gotten the legal and the personal standpoint, and you guys are probably thinking, well, why is this important other than common sense or things that you should know? Well, fun fact, you all signed it in our standards code. So alphas, you signed this on bid day, and we sign this annually. So at every chapter retreat, you will sign this over. So section 8, alcohol. And I'm going to read it to you guys just to refresh it. Alcohol. The use of alcohol is a matter of personal choice for those of legal drinking age. Each member is expected to make responsible choices regarding alcohol. Misuse or abuse of alcohol reflects unfavorably on the public image of Alpha Delta Pi and the entire Greek system and has the potential for serious health risks. True. All members of Alpha Delta Pi will abide by all federal, state, province, and local laws and university college policy regarding the use of alcohol. The legal drinking age in the state of Oklahoma is 21. At all Alpha Delta Pi functions where alcohol is consumed, the following guidelines will be in effect and will be followed. So you guys will all see this on the 21st for formal. Those consuming alcohol will have a valid picture ID with a birth date. So when you guys signed up, you had to put the license number and the birth date of your date. Identification will be checked by a security officer or proper authority upon entrance. All persons attending a function who are of legal age will have a wristband applied designating that they are of legal drinking age if they intend to consume alcoholic beverages. That's so the security guards know, and so we know you're legal, you can drink if you are consuming alcohol and you cannot. And then Alpha and Delta members and their guests will sign in on the invitation guest list and will give their name, date of birth, and either their driver's license number or student identification number. Alcohol will not be brought into, stored, consumed, or served in any chapter house that is owned by Alpha Delta Pi. No chapter funds will be used for the purchase of alcohol. No chapter funds will be contributed towards the expense of any party at which a common container of alcohol is present. Alcohol will not be permitted at any recruitment event, MSS, new member retreat, bid day activity, fundraising, or philanthropic event in conjunction with initiation or any where Alpha Delta Pi ritual is used. No member or guest who appears to be under the influence of alcohol will be permitted to operate a motor vehicle. So that's why we have buses, because we want you all to be safe. Because at formal, there will be a cash bar and you will be able to drink. But
At any time that we have a date party, we will be bussed over there unless stated otherwise, but you will have like a system of assigned cars. And that's just so you all are safe. So whatever your plans are afterwards, hopefully if you did drink at formal, you did have a DD, but we know as a liability, you got on the bus and you're safe. And then Alpha Delta Pi members will not permit, tolerate, encourage, or participate in drinking games. And my favorite, no member will be involved in any pre or post party. So just because you're done with formal or formal hasn't started yet, you can't pregame, you can't have a party beforehand or afterhand. And you all signed this. And so if for any reason we are suspect that you are doing that, I could easily pull this out and say, okay, well, on, when did we have chapter 3? October, you signed this and you said to Alpha Delta Pi that you would not do these things. And that's just because if we want to have nice things and fun date parties and formals, we have to be responsible. Because I know that you're all responsible women, but if we abuse it and we abuse the fact that our advisors are taking out time to be there and we're putting other people at risk, we won't have these things. And I don't know about you, but I really want to have formal, I want to have mallard ball, I want to have date parties, and I don't want any of you to get hurt or to abuse it. But if we continue to, if we have situations where people have to leave or we know that you've been drinking, we won't do this anymore. And I know that this isn't the main reason why we're at UCO, this isn't the main part of being an Alpha Delta Pi, but I don't know about you, but I want to be like, hey, I'm in this really cool sorority, but we can't do anything because we can't be responsible with alcohol. That's not cool and that's not fun, and I wouldn't want to explain that to my parents, to my friends, or to my sisters. So please keep in mind for formal and for any function that we have, you're responsible adults, and you signed a standards code, and you made a promise to your sisters and to yourself. So think about that, and just think about the decisions you make and the plans that you make, because it does affect more people than just you. It also affects our sorority. So, thank you.
Questions that they'd like to ask the presenters that we had, questions like individually, or are there any other questions for anyone? Colby?
If you guys came in late, you need to check in with me or else you're going to get fined.
Okay. Yes. Okay, so if you are an API, we have to vote on Greek goddess still, so if you can stay. But you guys are more than welcome to. So thank you so much for coming to speak.